Kevin McCullough.
Welcome back to Times Square. My next guest, I originally met on the set of another show, but her story is so compelling, I said I have to bring her to that Kevin show because we have to be vigilant, especially in this day and age in which we live, to protect our daughters from dangers that we just a generation ago would have never dreamed they would have been facing. But like her teammate, Riley Gaines, Caitlin Wheeler has seen the downside of this push to basically substitute men for women instead of establishing and declaring the equality of the two sexes. So, ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together and welcome to that Kevin show for the very first time, former All-American swimmer and SEC champion, Caitlin Wheeler. Hello, Caitlin.
Hi, Kevin. Thank you so much for having me.
I'm glad to get you on my show. Your story is compelling, and I want to delve into it. You've also documented it in a great op-ed piece in the Washington Examiner. I want people to know about that. And I want people to visit your website, takeontheNC2A.com, to further their information knowledge base about what we're about to talk about. But a couple of weeks ago, the NC2A admitted, I believe it was in congressional hearings, that they had done almost zero research into the impact of biological men being in biologically female locker rooms. And for you and Riley and others that have been having this discussion and dialogue with the nation at large for the last few months, what went through your head when you heard that admission come out?
My immediate reaction was really to laugh because it's absolutely absurd. You know, when asked point blank, they responded by, oh, we hadn't done enough research on this policy that we have in place that is actively and openly discriminating against women on the basis of their sex. And that completely violates Title IX. That's why we've now filed a lawsuit against the NCAA, because they're failing in their most basic jobs, which are to protect the fairness and safety of their athletes and to uphold Title IX. And it has failed miserably in several instances these past couple of years. And they're actively, again, and openly discriminating against women. And so hopefully this will be, I guess, a good step in the right direction. Obviously, there needs to be a lot of change. There needs to be a lot of accountability and responsibility taken by the NCAA. The leaders of the NCAA, they need to start making the right decisions. I think we're dealing with a lot of spineless leadership, not just within the NCAA, but I believe people even in the White House who are currently rewriting Title IX to make it more trans inclusive, which to me at this point just means anti-woman. So it really starts at the top and trickles down into the bottom. And so this is really, I think, a great step and a great opportunity for the NCAA to start taking accountability and protecting its female athletes.
Yeah, it was not funny from a comedic standpoint, but it was very funny from an oddity standpoint that recently on SNL, Rami Youssef, who was the host, said that he wanted to see a woman become president soon. And he said that would be such a great thing if a woman became president. And then he said, next sentence in the monologue, I kid you not, he goes, in fact, it would be really good if a trans woman became president soon. And in my head, I'm like, you just undid everything you said in the statement before. For whatever degree of belief you had about a woman becoming president, to then turn around and say that you actually wanted a male to become president was to put you back in the camp of what you were before you even said that. And Caitlin, hence lies some of the convolution in terms of the thinking in how the messaging on this issue gets discussed. When you have people like Caitlyn Jenner coming out and saying, I am absolutely against this from the get-go, knowing that Caitlyn's proclivity has been to pursue a trans lifestyle, but doing so from the standpoint that it harms women, I think these voices need to be heard. I think these stories need to be heard. So let's backtrack on your story a little bit. Take us back to the NCAA championships of just a year ago.
Yeah, 2 years ago, I was fortunate enough to be able to make it to the 2022 NCAA meet, going into that season, about halfway through is when we became aware of an individual named Leah Thomas. We had our midseason rankings come out, which these really are kind of the baseline to see where we will be going into the NCAA meet. And so discovering that this individual who was ranked first in multiple events by seconds, which in swimming is a lot, swimming is timed all the way down to the 100th of a second. So to be ranked first in multiple events by multiple seconds is really rare and kind of unheard of in swimming. But finding out that this individual was in fact a male was shocking, but it was also relieving because we were like, the NCAA, there's no way they would allow a man to compete at the women's NCAA meet, when in fact they did. I was there. I watched Thomas take away trophies, titles from Olympians, world record holders, really the phenom female athletes of the sports. And so it was crazy. Honestly, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I couldn't believe that the NCAA would allow this to happen, especially coming from an organization who's supposed to be upholding and supportive of women in Title IX. But not only that, they allowed this man, Leah Thomas, formerly Will Thomas, into our locker rooms. And I was in the locker room. This is not an environment where you're necessarily super comfortable. You know, it's a vulnerable environment. But growing up in the sport of swimming, you kind of get used to being vulnerable. But I was not prepared to be changing and exposing myself and turning around and seeing a 6'4" male a mere 10 feet from me. And that was definitely a humiliating and shocking and violating experience for me. But I really, in that moment, lost all trust for the NCAA. This organization that up until that moment I had put my trust in, had really failed on multiple accounts, not just by allowing this man to participate in our sports, but to be in our locker rooms and violating its female athletes. There were athletes, Kylie Allens, who's also on this lawsuit, one of the 16 female athletes who have put their names in the lawsuit. She went and changed in a janitor's closet, a maintenance closet, because she felt more comfortable changing there than she did her own locker room.
Which is shameful, sad, maddening on so many different levels. And it's interesting because the media doesn't want to play honest with what's happening here from a very, they would argue, kind of from a principled standpoint. Your teammate, Riley Gaines, was on with one of the cable channels recently. And she told a similar story to what you just told us. I believe she was there with you guys, actually. And one of the panelists from the left said, well, would you have trouble if there were lesbians in the locker room? And her response was, no, because they would be women. And women around women is what we're like. There's such a twisted kind of thing in people's heads about why they are perceiving that you ladies are upset about this. We're coming back with Caitlin Wheeler here on That Kevin Show. Don't go away.